Good morning, everyone. Hi. I'm going to make a start. Georgia Gould, the leader of the council, is on her way, so she's going to make a very quiet entrance. But I'll just let you all know she's arriving in a few minutes. Hello, welcome. I'm still saying Happy New Year, and I'm sort of saying Happy New Decade as well, because I hadn't really thought about it being a new decade until I stopped for Christmas. And I'm not sure what it means, but for me, I think it makes Camden 2025 and all of our pledges in it seem a bit closer. So I wanted to start by welcoming our new members of staff that would normally be on the induction training today, where we, as the chief executive and our senior leadership, would come along and talk about Camden. I think you're here. Can you raise your hands, some of the, so we can just say a really big welcome to you. So welcome. I think you're joining at a really exciting time. I'm going to be talking a bit about, for people that like some form, I'm going to just do some reflections. Then I'm going to talk a bit about it being a kind of anniversary for me, because on the 7th of January it was my final bit of my interview as chief exec, and I'll talk a bit about what I said I thought I'd do around preparing us to be a 21st century council. And then I'm going to tell you some of the things we're doing. Really, my whole theme is around liberating us as an organisation so that each and every one of you can deal with the issue in front of you as you'd want to do as a human being. And the more I work in Camden, I know it's inside us all, and it's really about unblocking the system and kind of relentless innovation. I also want to do a bit of reflection. Like you, over Christmas I had time just to stop and think, and I wanted to say some thank yous. So I want to, first of all, say thank you to everyone who helped with the general election and the count. I have done it before, but it's a big thing in Camden. I was nervous. It was great to know that I had so many experienced and friendly faces around. It was cold. People were in polling stations under different circumstances from normal, and the council was challenging. But I also wanted to thank all the staff that stayed behind and ran business as usual, because that's how we get to do those things. And I want to thank people that were here over the Christmas break and ran all of our essential services. Christmas is a very stressful time for some families, and we are here to support the most vulnerable people in our community, and we do that on a daily basis, and Christmas sometimes is a real challenge. Over Christmas, we also had the anti-Semitic graffiti in Hampstead. I got a text to say it happened, and then a few minutes later I got a text to say that the graffiti removal team were already out, that we'd already linked up with the police, that we were out doing community reassurance, and our press team also got some great messages out before I could even speak to the executive director I was trying to get hold of. So it's just a big thank you to everyone on that. So I've got a lot to say. I'm going to talk fairly quickly, but it's just about some of the opportunities I think we've got, and really for me about how we support you in your daily work. So 21st century organisation, I looked at some of my notes from my interviews, and the bit I really like is about being purpose-led. So that's more than having a direction. That's about having your heart and your mind, having a shared endeavour to what we are doing every day. But the bit I also like is they talk about relentless innovation, which is just about liberating the whole organisation to resolve the issue in front of them. And so the first thing I wanted to talk about was the Camden Inclusive Network, because we've set that up to do just that. I think Priya, she's here. Priya started yesterday. Stand up so at least people can see you, Priya, here. So Priya started yesterday as head of the unit. And do you remember that we did a call across the whole organisation, no matter where you are in the organisation, to come and help us work in the innovation space to resolve kind of the knotty issues? So we've got 4 team members that come from, I think, planning, environment, early years and corporate services. So I think that's It's Emma, Rachel, Sigal and Katrina have started as the core team members, but 222 people across the organisation have said we're going to come, and I think their first meeting's next week, and they're going to start working with us to draw on all of our experience to look at how we resolve the issues very quickly in kind of 6-week sprints in some cases that we face as a council. The first one we're going to do is the planning process and inclusive economy. That means, if you remember George's video about young people, particularly in Camden, saying they see lots of building, lots of regeneration, they talk about the glass buildings, and they say we don't think we get an opportunity sometimes to reap the benefits of that. For us, it's about making sure we're giving young people the opportunities they want and need in Camden. And behind me as well, you'll just see, I'll talk about bereaved families in a moment, but there is an opportunity for people just to talk about, from your perspective, what we need to do when we're supporting young families of young people who have tragically died in the borough. So there is a kind of post-it and whiteboard for you just to come along and put your thoughts down. If you haven't signed up for the network, I think it's still on Essentials and you can still join. And the second thing I wanted to talk about, which is kind of linked to that, is the Camden Safety Network that we've been working on, or Safer Camden Network. I've got so many acronyms. Safer Camden Network, which we set up a few months ago. Again, that was for us to say, let's be on the front foot about our communities and safety and keeping young people, but keeping everyone safe. So that work's underway. And we're looking in 2 areas. We're looking at a geographical area in Gospel Oak, and some of the team have done a bit of a data hack before Christmas and seen a big difference between how safe people feel compared to what's really happening in the area. And the reason I want to mention that is because we're going to do some very big, quick physical changes around lighting, etc. And it is part of that thing about doing the basics right as well, making people feel safe and staying connected with people. And the second bit of work we're doing is with the Somali community around how we make sure that all of the achievements of young people in the Somali community translate into good work, but we're doing some particular sharing of data around schools and exclusions, because there was a feeling that there was disproportionality in the number of young Somali people being excluded from school. The reason I mentioned that particular workshop is I think what I'm seeing when we get together with the communities quite often is you're watching from outside. You don't know who the member of the community is and who the member of staff is, because we work so closely together, sharing information, and it is a fantastic shift in how we do things. I think you probably always wanted to do that. I think it is about leadership, just letting you get on and do it, by the way. Again, I want to say something about the recruitment to that team as well. We listened to people saying from the community, we don't quite know how to apply to the council still. And so we've done a different kind of recruitment method. And I think we've got 3 community workers that will work with us on Safer Camden Network, but they are from the community. I don't know if any of them are here today, but it was a different way of recruiting. And as soon as we did that, we got a much more representative group of people applying to work with us. So that was fantastic. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the bereaved families work. Just to say that we've had 14 families really looking for rehousing after a young person in their family had died, and it's kind of a tragic incident that we respond to brilliantly immediately. But what we learnt was sometimes it was taking a long time to actually rehouse people, help them move schools, try and hold them for that particular point in their lives. So on that, we just said, let's meet every week. And I think the staff perhaps that were in that can give you a feeling of this. My aim was to say, let's meet as senior managers and the team leaders across supporting people and communities to see what's stopping us help people move to a new home. So I opened that saying, this isn't about holding you to account, it's about you telling me what you need to happen for you to do your job properly. And other people can tell you if that's what it felt like. But we have housed 4 families, and some of the feedback we had from those weekly half-hour touchdowns from the community. There's Anna Freeman, she's in housing. Someone called her an angel because she was the person that helped them every step of the way. And Peju Salusi, who I think we talked about before, again, we got praise from the family about how much she understood the family. Behind our 2 workers that were working with the family were a whole team of professional advisors and people who could step into that family's space and understand what was going on for them. And it was incredible for me to see how well our professional teams all work together. And we'll be drawing up kind of guidelines on bereaved families. We connected in with Sophie Linden, who's a deputy mayor in London, to have a real London-wide talk as well. And I think we'll be leading on some of the improvements we need to make when families want to move outside the borough. So it's had a very big impact on how we support families at that time. So taking that learning, I just wanted to say that tomorrow at Cabinet, we've got the next big challenge, which is around domestic violence. We have a great team of people working on domestic violence, and we have good policies across the council. But domestic violence has been rising in the country, and I started local government in the 80s, and I worked on domestic violence responses, and I didn't think that we'd have seen such a rise still. Domestic violence can happen to anyone, but it is still about 95% of victims that are women. We have to have a response for everyone. And what we found nationally, 79,000 reports of domestic violence last year. 3 women a week die from domestic violence still. And what we found is we still aren't quite joined up and quick enough to respond as a council. So tomorrow at Cabinet, there's a domestic violence report on our actions. There's going to be a working group. Again, people that want to join will let you know how perhaps through the innovation space we can contribute. I'm going to see if I can actively be involved in that. Councillor Angela Mason is going to lead that work as well. But it is about you telling us as well what blocks you to do that work. Because we've all got the good intention, we need to just make sure we've got the right response. And we've also looked at, if it's 1 in 4 women experiencing domestic violence, obviously there are women and men in our organisation experiencing violence, and we've looked at our own employment practices to make sure we can give 2 weeks leave for people that need it, so that they can help get their lives back together a bit when there's particular incidents. So hopefully that reflects what we think will be 12 months of fast action around something we all feel strongly about. And the final thing I was going to say in this section is, when I've talked about all of these initiatives, it's about us working differently and at pace, but it's always about us working with the citizens and our partners. So we're going to try and do civic awards this year. We haven't got a date for them yet, but it's where we can celebrate the outstanding work of the citizens we work with across Camden, and the public will somehow be involved in voting with us on that. We're trying to get sponsorship for it, but we want it to be a really big event to celebrate what we think is a fantastic community in Camden. So we're going to give you a bit more information on that as it comes through. I think we've got meetings next week with sponsors. If any of you know people that might like to sponsor events like that, do let me know as well, and we'll go and visit them. I'm finishing there. It's Georgia. So I just wanted the kind of link to Georgia is that we're talking about how we work differently and across all of our boundaries in the organisation. Obviously, we work with our partners and our citizens, and so Georgia is going to talk about several things, I expect, but also particularly about participation and what we need to do to unblock the way we work across the borough with all partners, and why that's so important to Camden 2025.
Thanks, Jenny. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry I'm late. I decided to do Pilates this morning as part of the kind of New Year's being the most, well, Camden being the most active borough in the universe, but I realised just how unfit I was, and so I'm slightly out of breath from a tiny bit of exercise. But I'm very delighted to be here and excited about the Civic Awards. Dermot O'Leary to host them, so that's my aim as Camden resident. But really excited to kind of follow on from what Jenny said and just say a massive thank you to everyone here. I know last year was an incredibly busy year, difficult year in many ways, but a year we achieved a huge amount, and everybody worked so hard. And just when we were starting to wind down, we had a general election and had to all wind back up again. And I'm always just in awe of the way that this council manages an election. I don't know if Claire's here from the elections team, but even if she, I'd like to give everyone who works on the election team a massive round of applause for everything they did. Because it's really, I know everyone who steps up, the counting, to be on the polling stations, to do the work when everyone else is focused on elections, and it's such an important part of what we do as a council. I know that there will be many different views here, but for me it was a really difficult night, and a lot of my fears about austerity continuing for the next 5 years, of the kind of challenges we face in Camden, meant that I left that evening really depressed. I got home in the early hours of the morning. It's just not working. Oh, I got home in the early hours of the morning, and I was the next day there was a session at our Think and Do climate space, which many of you helped at, and I was, really sulky and grumpy about it. And I was saying to my partner, "I know I'm not going to go to it," and he's like, "You love that Think and Do," having moaned about it for 6 weeks because I spent my Saturday evenings at environmental talks. He's like, "You got to go." So I got up the next day and I went, and our community had gathered there to talk about how to take those ideas forward, about working together to do what we can to solve a climate crisis. Ideas that came out of it were a Camden forest that our trees team responded incredibly quickly and helped give away hundreds of trees that people are now nurturing, a big funding bid to support environmental activities in Kentish Town. But it was just really the hope and the spirit of our community that I caught, and it left me thinking that, it might not be what I want it to be nationally, but we can change things from the bottom up. We can change things as a council, as a community. And, we can't change what happens around Brexit. We can't influence the Brexit deal, but we can make sure that every single EU citizen that lives in Camden feels welcome, feels part of our community, knows how proud we are to have them here with us. And we can't change the economic context, but what we can do is leverage the huge resource we have in our borough, all the organisations we see around us. And I know that that's what the Inclusive Economy team is doing. It's why we've invested 5 million into supporting employment, and why teams are already on the ground supporting people into well-paid work. And we also can't change the benefits context, but we can do a lot as a council to lift our communities out of poverty. And at the next full council, which is coming up, we'll be taking forward the most generous council tax reduction scheme in the country. And that's over 10,000 of our residents who won't have to pay council tax, and that's money that they can spend on food and school uniforms and the things that they need in their lives. So we can make a massive difference. And we lost Frank Dobson last year as well, who everyone I think will know was our former MP and kind of giant of Camden, but also a former council leader. And I was at his funeral, and the speeches were all talking about what he managed to build and what he did at Camden Council when he was leader, and the houses that he bought back then are the houses that we're using now to house people, to build new social housing. And he was in power during the Thatcher years, and Camden Council did an enormous amount, and it led its community and it protected its community. And I think that we can do that together here. And I think we'll need to use all of that people power, because it is a difficult time in many ways. And one of the things that I've spoken about here before, but worries me deeply is the rise in intolerance and hate that we're seeing. And I was away for New Year and somewhere in the Scottish Highlands, and Phoebe, wherever she is, called me to let me know that there had been anti-Semitic graffiti posted around Hampstead, including South Hampstead Synagogue. And when I went online to see the images, it was really jarring and painful to see that level of hate in the heart of our community. And I know that that's just one of many anti-Semitic, Islamophobic, anti-LGBT+, anti-disability hate crimes we've seen in our borough. And that's hard to take. But I think what we also saw was the amazing way that our community and the council responded. I think the council staff were there that morning to remove the graffiti. The community safety teams were in touch to support those who were impacted. And the rabbi of South Hampstead Synagogue got in touch to say to me that he knows that Camden Council is always there for them and the difference that it makes. And they, as a synagogue, want to be there for other communities that face hatred. And for me, that really is the Camden spirit, and that is the real heart of our borough. And it's something that we can support, and I think we model as a council. I talk a lot about participation. I know we do now as an organisation. But for me, participation is fundamentally about social justice, because there are some people in our community who have a lot of power, who know how to operate the system. We all work with people who get in touch a lot, and that's brilliant, and they've got a lot of energy and ideas and resource. But then there are some people in our community who feel completely powerless over their own lives and how to shape their community. And what we can do as a council is make sure that nobody feels like that everybody is able to make a contribution, everybody is listened to, everybody has a relationship that is meaningful, and everybody can be part of shaping their own lives and the lives of their community. And that's the work I see going on all the time in the council, from the way that our security staff greet people and take the time to listen to them and talk to them, to the staff who gave up so much time to support the Think and Do climate space, to the neighbourhood makers groups that are looking at how we use community spaces, to our housing staff who are really taking the time to see people in all of their problems, but also all of the opportunities that they have in their own lives. So I feel really proud of the journey we're going on. I think that the work we do here is really special. And I was in Manchester at the weekend, and Keir Starmer, our MP, was talking to a group of councillors in Manchester, and he was saying how proud he is of Camden and the amazing work we do here. And so I think that we are the kind of place that doesn't walk on by, that steps up to support our community. And I know that we'll do that in all the different ways that Jenny set out today. So really, from me, is just a massive thank you for everything that you do. Thank you.
I think I'm okay on the mic. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Oh, great. Okay. So I wanted to talk about two other things, and I don't normally keep paper, but one of them I've got to be very particular on, or else I think I might get in trouble. So the first thing I wanted to mention, and some of you have been invited to join in, is we've got this peer review happening next week. Do people know about this? It's the Local Government Association peer review. And I thought, when I became chief exec, I am so proud, and I was supposed to be a humble leader, that was in the advert, but I was actually very proud to represent Camden. And it's a bit like, I'm a mum, and my children used to hate it when I turned up to their dance shows, because I'd be like smiling at them. Because I wanted everyone to see them at their best, because I think they're so fantastic. And this is my approach to the LGA peer reviews. If you see a lot of smiling and doing this and asking you, anything you think I should say, just email me. So Camden hadn't done a peer review for a long time, and it isn't like an inspection. I'm going to say something about inspections as well. we invite people in and we ask them, in the spirit of kind of openness and transparency, to tell us what they think and how well they think we're doing against our own aims and objectives. And so I spoke to Georgia very early on about, would it be a good idea to talk about our leadership, our participation, our openness, our trying to be a bring your whole self to work organisation, trying to be a good partner across Camden. And we thought, yeah, this is a great idea because it was a long way away. Anyway, it's next week. You will have been invited to staff groups. You'll see things on Essentials and Yammer. We are really lucky. We've got people, the chief exec from Leeds, Tom Riordan, is one of the peer leaders, and Mayor Phil Glanville from Hackney, again, a place that we like a lot of their ideas. We've got team members from from Manchester City Council and places like Barking and Dagenham where we've looked at their participation models. So we're incredibly excited. We hope you do take part in the review if you've been invited to staff focus groups. Some of you might be in other groups. And we're really looking forward to hearing from them how we're doing on our journey. And I really mean, if you think there's something we should be talking about, do contact me and I'm going to try and get everything in I can so that we properly reflect. And we've got our position statement online and it's worth having a quick look at. And then the second thing I wanted to talk about, which is why I've got my notes, is some of the things we're trying to do to respond as an organisation to you as our staff around well-being and your leave and the way we look after you. And we try to retain staff and grow staff because we value you. And every year, our HR teams look at things like exit interviews, look at the market and see how are we doing as an employer? Are we doing everything we should be doing to be a good employer? And of course, our unions also talk to us about that and give us feedback. And one of the things we heard was about our staff leave. So we have reviewed staff leave, and I was hoping Jo Brown would do this because I think she deserves to do this, but we have fallen behind a little bit on staff leave. So we are moving everyone will have a basic annual leave entitlement increased by 1 day. So we'll go from 25 days to 26. Once you've been here, what we call long service, which is over 5 years, and some people have done a lot more than that, but once you've done 5 years, there's 3 days extra. So that's the bit I wanted to make sure I didn't announce even more. But there's 3 days extra, so you'll get 5 extra leave days instead of the current 2. And I think that reflects how much we value your work with us. We also looked at our family leave arrangements. I've had a lot of feedback, again, about how we support people through their kind of life journey. And so we are making some significant changes to the family leave. All of this will be on Essentials and Yammer, I just wanted to tell you. So things like maternity, adoption and shared parental leave, you'll now get the full 28 weeks full pay from day 1 of employment. So there's no kind of qualifying period. We're also going to introduce additional leave and entitlement for people that have premature babies, so you don't have to kind of start the clock from the moment your baby's born, and for full-term babies that need special neonatal care. So again, just trying to respond to your individual needs. And we've also enhanced support for our foster carers, bereaved parents, and our special leave guidance too. So I'm really pleased to talk about that. And then the other bit I wanted to mention was our well-being at work. Georgia mentioned going to Pilates. I think the last atrium briefing, I said I was going to try to get to mindfulness. I never got there. I'm going to try again. You can all remind me. I'm really looking forward to a whole range of well-being initiatives we're going to launch over the next few weeks. So it's everything from kind of eyesight tests to yoga, which I'll happily join you on, to kind of all sorts of lunchtime walks around the buildings to try and see how we can keep ourselves well and fit. I keep saying that you mustn't let me go in the lift in a few weeks' time. We're going to do this campaign around using the stairs. You can find me if you see me in the lift, and Georgia. No, she's not doing that. So yeah, I want to launch the wellbeing work, and you'll hear more about that over the next week or so. I also now just wanted to we've got to do a kind of a little photo, but we wanted all of you in the background. I hope that's all right. And that's around our work on Time to Change pledge, which I talked about in a previous atrium, which is about our mental health and well-being and how important it is for us as an organisation to look after our mental health. And we'll be launching, we're kind of formally signing the pledge, we'll be launching our work, and we'll be looking for champions to join us over the next few weeks as well. So we're going to do that very quickly with Georgia. Yeah. Good. So you're going to sign, yeah. Did you want us to? Sorry.
Don't recommend Pilates. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you. Brilliant. Okay, so the final bit before you can ask Georgia and I any question you want to, we wanted to make a link to what we talked about last time on well-being, which is around volunteering. And Dom is going to come up on stage now and talk just for a few minutes. Remember, we've got the volunteering day, which you can now take either in one day or in parts. And Dom will just talk about some of the things you could do in Camden with the volunteering day.
Thank you. Good morning, 5PS. My name's Dominic. I'm from the Charity Volunteer Centre Camden. I'm going to talk to you, unsurprisingly, about volunteering. You may not know, and I'm here to announce that at Volunteer Centre Camden, 2020 is the year of participation. Participation. This is a term that we are using to describe any giving of time, participation, social action, formal volunteering, and we're encouraging all people who live and work in the borough to be more participative. Now, I very much hope that all of you are participative, but with your one day of volunteering through the Employee Volunteering Programme, you can do more of this, and we very much want to help and support and encourage you to do this. So through this one day, it can be carried out in a number of different ways. So you can do a full day of volunteering somewhere, you can break that up into smaller parts and do different sessions over a period of time. You can do this volunteering by yourself. Or you can join in with colleagues and do it as a group. There are so many options available to you. So we very much encourage you to do it. And your volunteering support actually is really needed. Camden is a fantastic borough. It's got some amazing charities and community groups. And through years of austerity in the country, charities are very much struggling and they need volunteer support more than ever. And your support would be greatly appreciative. So I've just got a couple of quick examples to give to you of some things you might do just to help inspire and get some ideas. So you might get fit and do good with Good Gym Camden. You could do volunteering on an app, helping blinds or people with low vision through an app called Be My Eyes. There are a number of opportunities at the Castlehaven Community Centre, including every Wednesday, opportunities sort of between 10:30 and 2:30 to help out and maintain their local park. There's a new organisation called Food Drop, which is just launching, which is an opportunity to help pick up and distribute surplus food. North London Cares has some intergenerational social clubs to reduce isolation. You get involved with that. There's Action Tutoring opportunities, a number of very short sessions to help young disadvantaged people. And also Marie Curie are looking for some collection volunteers, which again can be done in short sessions. We've collected some of these sort of shorter opportunities on our website. So if you go to the website of Volunteer Centre Camden, look under volunteering, and there's a page there called Camden Council Employee Volunteering. So they'll have some ideas and hopefully will inspire you to get involved. There are As well as that, there's also a link to an online database of formal volunteering roles. We very much encourage you to do that. This is a new program, it's developing, and we're working and supporting the council to create more tools to make it easier for you, but there is no need to wait. You can do something now if that's something you want to do. Volunteering is a fantastic thing to do. You can help develop your skills, you can develop new ones, you can meet new people. It's extremely rewarding and often is lots of fun. People tend to get involved because they want to help people and make a difference, but they often find they get a lot back too. So if that's something that's good, sounds interesting to you, please take advantage of this great opportunity and look at something to volunteer. Thank you.
I was going to say something on the yacht. So now it's your opportunity to ask us questions or just maybe tell us something you want the whole organisation to hear. I forgot one thing I wanted to say is, as well as the peer review next week, this week we've got the youth offending team being inspected. The inspectors are based at Crowndale. Martin's here, and Martin Pratt's leading from the council side. And again, on that sort of proud mum theme, I'm just hoping we get an opportunity to tell our whole story in Camden about all the fantastic work we do with young people, as well as through the youth offending team. And it's really about whether we can match everything we do to kind of inspection regime, and that's what Martin's challenge is this week, but we'll keep you updated on that. So, questions, comments, you've got the leader and you've got me. Oh, we've got one here and then we've got Liz. I don't know, Nikki, do you want to just go here? And then we've got Liz after. Hi.
First and foremost, I've got to say a huge thank you for bringing the Camden family together to not only mingle, but to share. So that's very, very good. Recruitment is a big thing, as we know, in relation to staff retention and also giving people the sense of oneness as a borough. So I think it's more of a comment than a question, that I think we need to be seen to be recruiting fairly and inclusively, which I think has been a problem in Camden. And my thinking is that if we get that wrong, it takes a long time to get it back on. So it's important that we will make mistakes, but it's about making sure that there's inclusiveness in recruitment. Finally, to give others a chance to talk, it's about including, ensuring, making sure that we do more, and I applaud the network that's just been developed. We do more to make sure that members of the black and ethnic minorities are included, are targeted, I think that's the right word to use, in senior management positions. So that will be for me for now. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. It is very good luck that you're standing next to Jo Brown, because I'm going to just ask her to say a few things. First, maybe it's most important, it is a personal commitment of ours to make sure we listened to our organisation, particularly to our Black Workers group, but to all of our groups around inclusivity and recruitment. And when I was talking about the recent recruitment that we've done into our communities, we have tried different ways of being more inclusive. It's really, we got some very strong feedback about if you know how to apply to a council, it's a bit formulaic sometimes, but it can be very daunting if you don't know. And so we've tried to use different ways of recruiting. And I don't know, Jo, do you want to just say?
Can I just quickly come in on that? Because I think it's something that we've really heard, and I meet, I think it's every 6 weeks now with the unions, Unison and the Black Workers Group, looking at exactly this, and with Jo. And it's something that we've been pushing at every level of the organisation. And I would say that I chair most of the senior recruitment of officers, and we've changed the way that we go out to recruit, and we're seeing much more diversity come forward. So we're starting to see the change, but we recognise there's a way to go, and it's something that we will continue to look at forensically and be held to account on. And Jo will.
You pretty much said everything, George. Let's do really specifics, and I'd love to meet with you and hear a bit more about your thoughts. But one of the things we're trialling at the moment is totally anonymised recruitment. So we're trialling a system called Be Applied, and we'll be sort of open and transparent with the organisation about how that's worked and any improvements that's made. But if you do have any views, I'd really love to hear from you.
And we're going to move to Liz now, but one of the things we heard in the feedback we had was even if you're recruited, there was a lot of concern about internal progression. And so that's where we've done the mentoring and sponsorship work, which again, we can give you more details on, but to make sure you know that you're valued to move up in the organisation once you're here as well. Liz.
Yeah, Liz Wheatley, Unison Brand Secretary. And I mean, absolutely on that last point, I think it's been quite an interesting thing that we're trying to do actually, and certainly JRA and other members of the Black Workers Group and myself will do our best to hold you to account, but also to take part in what we hear from our members as well on that. But I did have a slightly different comment and a question, because I think in terms of, obviously a lot of what we do is take up issues for staff, and the announcements on annual leave, I think, are really good. I mean, you know, no surprise I'm going to say Unison raised these a couple of years ago and has been raising them, both things like specifically premature birth leave and obviously annual leave. I think we've argued for the council it helps with retention. We've also thought it was unfair that we had our members on different leave just because of when they started working the council and what contract they're on. So obviously, you know, it's really good to hear that you've come around to our way of thinking on that. But you know, you have to take it where you can get it, don't you? I think the question I have, though, I guess is on, and I don't know if you've had a chance to think through on how it will be applied. Is it going to be backdated? Because, for instance, people who've been here 5 years will be on what we still call the new contract, but will therefore have accrued one point of leave of a couple of days, but not the higher rate. So I don't know if you've had any time to look at that, because obviously we think that it should be applied backdated, because otherwise you're going to keep ending up with people not having you know, the same leave, having a 2 or 3 tier system of leave. And obviously, of course, we think there should be additional accrual points coming up, and we'll keep arguing about that.
Joe is saying we'll get it on essentials straight after this. We'll clarify on essentials. That's probably the best thing to do. Nikki.
I've actually got a question as well as holding the microphone. A thank you as well for your nurturing approach to the council since Jenny's been with us, and the mothership flag that she flies. I think it's made a much more sort of community from us, and I've been here a long time, so it feels much calmer and more of a community feel within the council in the last year. I just want to take the opportunity for a comment, and you talk a lot about supporting each other through our services, and that's something which I know we try our best to do and be as joined up as possible. My name's Nikki from the events team. I wanted really just more of a comment about how services do join up and how we need to do more of it. I know in the last 5 years we've developed as a team that joined up approach where we become a one-stop shop for other services, creating income for highways or parking or other services that we get business for, because we have had to, I've watched the change where I was just a mere council worker managing events and the Camden Centre into now becoming a leader of business for Camden. So everything we do has to have cost recovery and everything we do has to make money. So I just wanted to sort of emphasise a quick example of joining together as services, so that the events team are working quite strongly now with the registrar's team. To get business, both our services have to make money. We need more weddings in Camden, we need bigger business, we need to support the business that's here. So we have, for example, put together a wedding fair. We'll have 1,000 people through this building on February the 29th, leap year. We've got a love-in exhibition with a local community organisation or small business, Small Green Shoots, a youth organisation, bringing a double bed to the library for 2 weeks with an exhibition in the library called Love-in. What we try and do, no comment for the after hours approach, but we need to build that business. So although we've currently got stall holders and stands, we need the rest of the council to work with us on bringing business in. It's free to come in, but we want anybody that you think might want to be part selling their services or showing what they can give to the community when you get married. And it could be a caterer, it could be a hairdresser, it could be a makeup artist. So you will come across people that do these jobs in their everyday life, and they might like to come and be part of this event. and we need you to help promote it as well.
Great.
And that
I'm
was
getting married in
You're
May.
getting
I
married,
will
so
do
she'll
that.
be here.
Georgia's got something to say on the kind of wedding. So
No, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think my partner is like so angry that I've done nothing about wedding
We'll do
planning
it for
and I'm
you.
always working.
My
So I feel like this is going to be
And
a
my
great
final thing is
partnership.
we're here to support every service here. So every meeting you need to run, any social event you
Nikki,
need to
we've got to
run,
move
we're
on.
here to help you.
Great. But I don't know if Nikki was talking about the double bed and the issue of us having the lowest birth rate in Camden, but I think we might be going a bit too far. I don't know where that was going. I want to do one more question if people are okay, because I've got, or maybe two quick ones. Can we do really quick questions?
I just wanted to... Hello? I just wanted to say thank you for all the positive changes that you've brought about. I just wanted to ask a question about Brexit happening on the 31st of January. Do we know how that's going to affect the residents? Do we have any plans moving forward on how we're going to address this?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, do you want to should we take both of them?
Oh, yeah, take both questions. Good idea.
Yeah, hello. Mine kind of follows on from that a bit, because what you've said today has been great and really positive. But I'd like to know who's paying for it. Is it the residents? The leave, I think, is fantastic. Are you going to give us more staff to be able to cover that leave? How's it going to work? Because this all sounds great, but I don't know in practicalities how that's going to work without creating more stresses on staff. Actually, so it seems to be a double whammy, if you like. And yes, with Brexit and lots of other things, what is our financial position? How are we going to meet all these good and positive things? So that's my question. Thank you.
So on the Brexit question, so we've been running a campaign for over a year now, the EU Make Camden, You Make Camden campaign to encourage our citizens to register for settled status, and we've now got 15,000 that are registered, so that's double, I think, last time we were here. They'll still have more time to do it, but we're going to kind of ramp up that campaign again and have some more kind of events and support sessions for EU citizens. Things aren't going to change directly for them on the 31st, but I think it's an opportunity for us to encourage them to sign up to protect their rights, but also I think a lot is about how people feel and making sure that they feel welcome in Camden and they know that we want them to stay as part of our borough. So the question, just a broader question about finances. I mean, we have made some really difficult savings in Camden. We do long-term budgeting. We have a medium-term financial strategy. Some of it is investment. Some of it has been cut. And we are on track to meet that. You know, there's areas that kind of we're doing better, areas that we're not doing as well. But you know, John keeps us very close and tight on making sure we follow that through. I mean, there's a longer term concern about the impact of Brexit. It could put the economy into recession, and we are doing some plans about if that happens, how would we support our residents into work? How do we encourage businesses to stay in the borough? We don't think that's going to happen overnight, but I think it's a really good question and something that we'll have to look at together.
Yeah, and I think it's a brilliant question to end on, because we're not giving away sweeties here. We're not saying, hey everyone, you can have all of this for nothing. We are thinking about well-being, staff retention, sickness levels, mental health issues, and what happens if we don't invest in our whole self, and what happens if we don't see you as a person and your particular needs. And we know that if we look after each other and ourselves, we can work better. We have, I think, slightly higher than average sick leave in a lot of areas. And I think if we work together to make sure, A, we understand how you're coming to work, your particular issues, what you might be caring. That's why we have our carers group work. That's why we say, tell us about your life. I think you work better, work more humanely, feel part of something bigger. And overall, I think we cover what otherwise is unexpected sickness and stress leave in a better way as a family, and are more effective. And on our midterm financial strategy, I know we're right. Because when we do work like in the landlord review in housing services, when we let our officers talk to people one-to-one and resolve issues, we've measured the wasted work that used to happen when we chased people for the wrong reasons, when we chased them with letters that made them more stressed rather than sit down and talk to them. So I could spend a long time on that, and I'm going online afterwards. But this is, we respond to you respectfully, we get the data, and we know that it's the best way for us to work together in very difficult times, because we are here for more and more vulnerable people, which is why we talked about domestic violence and bereaved families and all the things we need to do when there's a tragedy or a kind of a stress point in your lives. So I know we've got to finish now, but I just want to thank you again, say it's the start of a new decade, keep in touch with us, feel proud of what you're doing, and together we'll face what is a difficult set of challenges ahead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, echoing that, no, just a massive thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.